Okay, in this video we're going to do a monitor rebuild. Now this this Defender, I never rebuilt the monitor, but for a long time now, we're talking 3 years, it had a perfect picture. So I never went back to it. I noticed no one ever rebuilt it, and so I'm going to try to do on camera a cap kit. Now, I think it's just a cap kit. I have tried to adjust this, and then it'll change and it'll go out. I'd rather just put a cap kit in. But I know it's just a cap kit because I can still see a pretty decent picture. I mean, if something else was wrong, like a transistor or diode, I think it would be a lot worse. But here we go. We're going to do a cap kit. You know what? Hopefully, I'm going to pull this out. I don't even know what monitor is in this thing, so hopefully I have the cap kit. If not, I'm going to have to replace whatever the offending caps are. But here we go. Well, I just pulled this out. Man, I have a lot of issues with light in here. I wish, you know what? You know what? That's what I'm going to do tonight. That's tonight's project. I'm going to get a light in this arcade room. See this little thing right here? That's like a homemade thing, and it kind of fell apart. The power supply went out, and it's no good. I thought it'd be really cool. I got, you know, a little remote control to control it and everything. It's not very bright. But the reason I turned the camera back on is even though I don't have much light, I'm really impressed with how nice the side art is on this game. Man, when I seen it, I had to have it. And believe it or not, I have some time into it. But I mean, look at that. Anyways, I'll tell you how I got it. I'm gonna flip this sucker over. Oh yeah, Eugene Jarvis signed it. That's kind of cool too, right? But one of these days I want to touch up some of the little spots. Like here's some spots here. I'll touch those up someday. But I mean, wow. That's beautiful. Like that could be touched up a little bit too. What's that? But alright, I'll tell you how I got the front. Alright, I'll tell you how I got this. I was at an arcade show, and a buddy of mine brought this. And he wanted 900 bucks for it, and I did not have 900 bucks. But one thing I did is I brought, I think it was 20 multicades to the show. Now, if you don't know me, that's what I kind of do. I'll build multicades, and I'll use them as trade bait to get the good stuff. You know, so somebody might have in their basement, like for instance, my Qbert. I got my Qbert from a guy that he wanted a multicade, and I says, "Are you kidding me? Yeah, I'll build you a multicade." So I probably had 100 bucks in 3 hours time, and a multicade was done, and so whatever. So anyways, when I was at the show, I brought multicades as trade bait to get some things I really wanted. And I ended up, believe it or not, I traded 3 multicades for 3 pinballs. What a great deal. I'm not really a pinball guy, but I got a rough-looking but working Knight Rider and a, what's it called, Card Whiz, and there's another one. Oh man, what was it? Tommy. What's it called? Tommy the Wizard? You know that song, Since I Was a Young Boy? I'm not a pinball guy, I don't know. But I got those 3 games, which are actually probably together worth more than this Defender, but I knew I didn't have anything in it, and so I traded it to that guy for this, instead of giving him 900 bucks. In my opinion, the way I feel, I got a hell of a deal, and then he thought he got a hell of a deal in his opinion. So you know what? It all worked out well for everyone. But okay, let's get serious. Let's tear this monitor out. Okay, this is the back of the Defender. I'm going to, you know what, before I do anything, I'm going to shut that off. I'm going to shut that off. Okay, maybe you can hear me a little better now. I remember this one just needed a flathead. Okay, it looks like I have a G07 monitor. That back door over here. And I wonder, I'm curious if that's original or not. A lot of times you'll see like a Williams sticker. And I don't see one. Okay, I do see a Williams sticker. Maybe that was the original monitor. But okay, let's see if I can get down here. I'm gonna move this guy. Now, first thing you should probably do, let me lower this camera a little bit. First thing you should probably do is discharge it. You see that? You see that anode cup right there? Okay, I'm going to show you what I do. This is just me being quick and fast and whatever. I'm going to get me a piece of solder, okay? And I'm going to put it to a ground. Okay, you can twist it to anything metal on the chassis. I kind of just twist it to the edge of the board and break off a piece of solder. And I have an old screwdriver. Now you probably shouldn't use one with a wooden handle because water can be inside the wood and blah blah blah. But I'm not worried about it. I've been shocked a few times. You know what? I'll give you a tip. Use one hand, keep the other hand in your pocket. And the reason why is because if you get electrocuted from one hand through your body to the other hand, the electricity, the current went through the shortest a direct shot, which would be what's in between your two arms. It could go right through your heart. And in general, these things, they do hold a little more current than you want. But in general, you'll be okay. You know, if you get shocked, but there is a slim chance that if you get shocked by one of these things, you could have a heart attack. You could be going to fibrillation. So, just because I've been shocked through one hand into the other before, that's not a good feeling. But in general, you should probably be fine, but don't risk it. But okay, I'm going to go right here on the anode cup. Boy, that's like glued on there. Okay, hear that little tap, little click? That means I discharged that monitor. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to push on one end and then pick up. I'm trying to do this. The camera is right in my way. Okay, I got that off. Okay, getting that off. Okay. And sometimes I like to do this because there's sometimes a residual charge, but not this time. But okay, so the tube has been discharged, and what I'm going to do now is G07s, and there's probably 3 other models, with Wells Gardner and etc. have a screw right here, 1/4 inch. So I have a little nut driver here. I'm going to pull this out. My nut driver is wore out. It's just barely making it. Okay, and on this side, it's going to be another one. See if I can bend the camera down. Okay, you see that one right here? So on each side is going to be a 1/4 inch. My nut driver is slipping. I think this is the last use for this nut driver. It's actually supposed to be for bits for your screwdriver, but it's the same size as 1/4 inch, so. Okay, that's out. Save your nuts, of course. Bolts, screws. Okay. At some point, you're going to want to disconnect your power. Okay, that's disconnected. You're going to want to pull your neck board. That's disconnected. And on the neck board, there's always a ground. You want to pull that ground. Okay, I got that removed. Okay, now you're going to want to get your degauss coil. You know what? Right here handy. I'm going to pull this. That's my video cable. Okay, and this guy, it has a degauss wand built into the monitor, and it's like a coil that goes all the way around the monitor. It demagnetizes the metal screen inside the tube. And there's wires, 2 wires going through this chassis. I'm going to pull those. Going to look like that. Now it doesn't matter if you put it in this way or this way. You can put it in backwards. It's okay. You have AC current going through that. Now, there's one more thing. Your yoke coil. See, there's 2 coils, actually 4 coils, that deflect the beam up and down, left and right. I'm going to pull the plug for that. Now, in most cases, you can only plug it back in the same way. There's an extra notch. See how there's like a bigger gap right here? Most cases, you cannot plug it back in wrong. But just in case, kind of remember which way it went. Okay, so now we have our G07 chassis. And I'm going to bring it to my little table I got set up in the kitchen. Yeah, see all those? Those are definitely original caps. You know what? I might even put this in the sink and wash it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to put it in the sink and we're going to wash it. I'm going to look and see if I have a G07 cap kit. If not, I'm going to replace the cap parts that I think are bad. Okay. Okay. I have my G07 chassis here, and I'm going to put it right in the sink. Now, normally I like to use mean green, but I don't have that today, so we're going to use spick and span, see how that works. But get the whole thing soaking wet. Try not to linger too much on the flyback. This is the flyback. Try not to linger too much on it. And try not to linger too much on your focus block. You still want to get it wet, but if you get it too wet, you might not have it running today. You know what I mean? And if you want to, you can decide not to clean your neck board, but I'm going to go ahead and do it because I'm going to show you a drying trick. The reason why you might consider to not clean your neck board is because the water in there, you have about anywhere from 900 to 1,000 volts that goes to this one wire right here that goes to the focus block. And what that does is that controls the voltage to your focus. And that much voltage, if it's a little moist in there underneath all this plastic, it'll throw your focus off until it's dry. But okay, we got it somewhat soaked up here. And I'm almost out of this stuff. But I like to get the anode cup real good. This stuff's working pretty good. I like the mean green, but this stuff's working. Get that wire. Try not to yank too much on the flyback wire, especially since you have it wet. You really don't want any water inside your flyback. But okay, I got that. I'm going to let that water run. Let's get some hot. Oh, it's already hot. All right. Just going to rinse it. I could spend a long time on this, but basically it doesn't matter that much. We're just going to get it dust-free just so I can basically work on it without it being all nasty and getting crap all over me. Just rinse this sucker down. Okay, that's been rinsed. And see if I can find. This is what I do to help it dry. First off, let's let some of that water drain off of it. And I use some isopropyl alcohol. I'm going to alcohol this thing down. Get it nice and wet with alcohol. We're going to let it dry again. Drip off a little bit. Going to get this wet again. Gotta let it drip off a little bit. This is going to help speed the drying time. And make your hands taste bad. But okay. Let me wash some of this crap off my hands here. Okay, let me show you what I've done. I've gotten an old shoebox here. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get a steak knife here. I'm going to cut a little section out of the box. Over here. I'm going to cut a little section out of the box. Over here. On this side. I'm going to stick a hairdryer in here. Okay. I'm going to close this up. And I'm going to let that run for about, I don't know, 15 minutes or so. Now don't worry about the heat. The only thing that can be damaged by this heat, this is not that hot. The only thing that can be damaged by this heat is the capacitors you're going to replace anyways. So luckily, I got an ugly looking rebuild kit. It was on the floor of my truck. Hopefully everything's still good in there. I may have used some parts out of this, but we'll see. But, alright, I'll see you in 15 minutes. Now, in your cap kit, hopefully, you're going to get a piece of paper that shows the location of all these different capacitors. And so what I do is, when I randomly pick a capacitor out of the pile, look at the value, replace it, and then mark it off. That way, when it's all done, I know I either do or don't have all the caps, and and then if you go back and you see you replace that cap twice, you say, wait a minute, something got mixed up. So you can go back and you can figure out what just happened. But okay, first cap I'm going to grab. What is this guy? 47 microfarad at 250. Now, 47 microfarad at 250 is right here, C511, and that says it's right here. So let me turn this guy around. Okay, C511 is right here. So I'm going to desolder it. Now, usually, you don't need a desoldering iron with these boards. Now, when I pulled this out, see this is Electro-Home, and you see the solder mask has a dark spot, and then the negative side of the capacitor is on the dark side. I'm going to make sure the new capacitor goes in the same way. Okay, so that's in, and I'm going to bend these leads back, and we're going to mark off on the list C511. That was done. Okay? And basically rinse and repeat until you get all the caps. So I'm going to grab another one. 100 microfarad at 160 volts. Same thing. 100 microfarad, 160 volts, C411, which is right here. I want to make sure it's the same. Yes, it is. I'm gonna desolder it. Now, one of these capacitors on a G07, and probably other monitors, but I do know one of these caps on a G07 is labeled improperly. So pay attention. Don't just listen to the solder masks. Pay attention to how the capacitors were on the board. And you make sure you put the capacitors the same way you took them off. Don't trust the solder mask, because remember, it worked before the way you took it off. But okay, I'm going to do a few more, and I'm probably just going to turn the camera off so you can. I mean, you've seen all this before, right? Okay, 2200 microfarad, 25 volts. Right here, C5. Oh, I forgot to mark off 411. Mark it off. And next one is C521. We're going to C521. This big guy right here. That's it. In general, you don't even have to desolder these. You kind of just do it. Now, when I'm all done, I'm going to run through and I'm going to solder all these things. But right now, I'm just going to do these one at a time. I'm going to mark that off. It's going to be faster that way instead of jumping between your tools back and forth. 10 microfarad at 250, 10 microfarad at 250. Then there's two of these. I'm going to go with C905, which is this guy right here. I'm going to desolder that. Got the new one in. There we go. So now I can mark off C905. Let's go with the next one. 10 microfarad 250 again. That's the other one, C107. That is the guy on here. Look at that, look at that. That's definitely not a good thing. You see it in the camera? Okay. Let's go ahead and remove this totally. There's a lead that broke off. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to blow on it. Let me grab my tool real quick. I got that. Okay. I'll stick the new one in. Wow, 10 microfarad 250. I just want to make sure I'm right. Yes, I'm right. Okay. We're going to mark that off. And what's the next one? 33 microfarad at 160 volt, 3.3 microfarad at 160 volts. Let's find it. C412. C412 is right here. And right between these guys. So let me pull this guy. Cut that out. one's giving me a little problem. I'll get it. Okay, got it out. Negative on the same side that the other cap came out. Okay. Now that was C412, right? Yep. Okay. Let's grab another one. 1 microfarad, 250 volts. 1 microfarad, 250 volts. C523. And where are we at? C523, right here. Let's replace this one. Now, if you get any of these wrong, in other words, if you put them in backwards, the odds are you're going to blow it apart. It will explode. And most cases, but if it does not, you're going to have problems with your monitor and not know why, because not all circuits are going to give it enough current to actually blow the cap. So please make sure you got it right. Okay, next one is 220 microfarad at 16 volt. That's C302. Now remember, there was one of the threes. I think this might be it. That the solder mask on a G07 was backwards of what it really is. So okay, this is it. Now I think this is it. See how the all right. First I'll pull it off. Okay, now the bottom of the solder mask says positive is on my left-hand side, but this says negative is on my left-hand side, on the top. So that was a misprint on the boards, and Electrohome, the makers of this monitor, decided to just not worry about it. But that could throw you off. Now, I've actually, nowadays, cap kits have these nice pictures, but and it helps you out. And then there's something that it said, yes, C302 is marked incorrectly. It actually tells you on the sheet. But in the past, years ago, I've replaced caps on these G07s, and I've had this cap blow. And I looked at the solder mask, and I didn't bother looking at the top and bottom, and I was like, what the heck's going on? And you know, I eventually looked at the schematics and made a big nightmare out of the whole ordeal just to figure out why that cap was blowing. And C302... right here. So basically, we already did half the monitor recap job is already done. So I'm going to see, we're already up to 10, we're already up to 11 minutes. So, you know, I'm going to pause this video. I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and I'm going to show you soldering, if you don't already know. As soon as I paused the video, I ran across the cap that's underneath this RF shield. And now, as far as I can think of, G07 monitors like this are the only ones that have an RF shield that you have to remove during a cap kit. So what you do is basically just desolder it from the board. You give it a pull, cut that side off, and I got that side off. So just pull on it and it'll come right out. Okay. Going back, I'm going to go finish doing these caps. Okay, as you can see, every cap has been marked. And now I know every cap was in the kit. And just to mention something, cap kits aren't a guaranteed fix for a monitor. Now, they fix most problems with monitors. As long as no transistors or no diodes or anything like that has failed, a cap kit should work. But cap kits rarely, if maybe never, contain all the capacitors for your monitor. One big example is this big giant capacitor right here. Now, this filters out your high voltage coming in. Now, on just about every monitor, you're going to see a big cap somewhere. And generally, these don't fail. But they can, and they have, and they will. But, for example, if you recap a monitor and you're sure everything is good, but your screen is kind of waving like a flag, or you see a wave going across, I would replace this big capacitor on just about any monitor that you are working on. Now, just come to mind the Wells Gardner 4600, the one that has the two cards that stand upright. There's a little card that sticks somewhere on the edge right here, and if you see a waving problem, there's a little capacitor on that card. I think there's like 3 caps on that card, but there's one cap that you should replace. Now, also with a 4600, this is not a 4600, but I'm talking about 4600s. With a 4600, I've had the big cap go bad or failing, and I've put an oversized cap on that little power regulator card and fixed the problem. Now, it did not fix the problem, but it fixed the filtration on the voltage. But so I'm getting, okay, that's what I'll do. I'll solder it together. Okay. See if I can get this in kind of tight. Okay, that's a little better. But now, since I got all the caps in, I can go by and start soldering. It's a little quicker now since all I gotta do is do a bunch of soldering. And I don't have to switch back and forth from tools to capacitors, capacitors to tools. I can just go through and just start soldering. And as long as I see leads sticking out, I know it needs soldered. I'll go ahead and solder this guy, solder this guy, solder this guy. Just go through and make sure everything is good. Soldered. Now, if you guys can think of anything, I would love to answer any questions about monitor problems, because monitors kind of baffle a lot of arcade guys. And monitors, they just don't make brand new anymore, so you're going to have to fix your original monitor or replace it with another old monitor. And see, I got them all? And if you have any questions about monitors, I'd love to talk about this stuff. Send some comments. But now, okay, I have in the past, I don't like doing it. You really shouldn't, but you might be tempted to just kind of bend that lead back and forth till it breaks off. And it works, but you have a high chance of causing stress in the solder joints. In other words, what's called a cold soldering joint. Now here I see a little contact, let's say this for example, and there's a little crack around it, and your lead is in the middle. That crack in the solder joint is what's called a cold soldering joint. So this has all new caps, and judging by what was going on with my monitor, I have a really good feeling that that cap that was broken, that handles the high voltage, that one cap alone will probably what fixed the monitor. Because previously this monitor, even though it has not been it's not been recapped in its life, actually had a really nice picture, really nice tube. But might as well get them all, because if you have an electronic device that is 10 years old or less. I mean, let's say 10 years old. Chances are that every capacitor in your device has drifted off to its factory specifications. So it just depends how much longer is it going to work before it's so far out of its own specs that it will not work. So these capacitors can fail a number of ways, but let me solder this guy on. Okay, capacitors can fail in different ways. Now, one way when they fail is very, very obvious. The top of a capacitor will blow off and blow apart and look like Jiffy Pop, you know, on top. And that's an obvious failure. Another way is they leak over time, and which is also another reason they dry up over time. But this might be a bad example of something to do this with, but if you get a circuit board and you see, okay, normally you cannot see where that capacitor has leaked unless it has corroded something. But if you get an ultraviolet light or a black light and you get in a dark room and put that light over the circuit board, you can see around all the caps where it may have leaked. And when you do that, you can kind of figure, if let's say you don't have all the tools, you don't want to tear the board apart, you don't want to do all this work, if you see some goo that came off it and dried up with a UV light, then okay, let's just replace that capacitor just because. Because, you know, I mean, unless you want to go through every single thing you own, you know. But what else was I going to say? Oh, let me put this back on. See, I'm just pressing on the other side of the board and it popped through. Okay, I'm going to do it over here now. Pop through. Do a little better on this side. There we go. I'm not even going to bother soldering it. It's good enough. This is basically here to protect from any radio frequency interference. That chip is kind of sensitive. It handles low voltages to control the image on your monitor. And if you have radio frequency, like for instance, the electromagnetic waves coming off of your yoke coil, which sits right here, it can interfere with the output of that chip. So this actually helps clean up the picture a little bit. Now I've run these without this cover, without any problems, but it's there for a reason. You might as well put it back. But okay, let's go over to Defender and let's get this thing running. Okay, I'm going to get my chassis and basically put it back together just the way you took it off. I should probably clean this, but I'm lazy. Okay, in the back there's little tabs to line it up. Okay, I'm going to get my nut driver. That's probably never going to work again. It's stripped out. I'm going to put this screw in over here. Having technical difficulties here. We'll figure this out. Okay, let's get the other side. I'm going to have to come back with a different nut driver because I can barely screw this in at all. Well, I got that side in. Let me get this side a little better. Nope, I'm going to have to come back to that. Okay, I'm going to plug in my D-Gauss coil. They always make on a G07 this wire a little too short. I always thought they made it a little too short. But okay, we got that in. So I can plug in my yoke coil. I'm going to hook up my high voltage anode. Now what I do with this is I get one side in first and push down and let go. Okay? I'm going to hit this back in here. One's good enough because I think I broke the other one. Plastic gets brittle and breaks over time on these. Okay, here's my ground. Okay. Did I get it all? Oh, video. I always thought G07s were goofy, how you had to go way back here to, you know, depending on the cabinet, you got to get right up in there with all that high voltage to mess with it while it's on. Okay. That connected. Did I get it all? I think I got it all. Okay. Let's get the power cord. Flip this sucker around. Okay, I'm going to go over here and plug it in. Unplug these games. Okay. See what we got. Definitely gonna need to make some adjustments. Oh, you know, this might be a good time to mention I've been having some issues with this board. I think it's just a simple bad connection. Let me go back. I'm gonna push on some chips and see if it fires back up again or not. In the dark. Okay. Yep. Okay, I just pressed on some chips and was lucky enough. And oh, I have a dead battery in this game. So I'm going to go through. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll make a video of that someday. Okay, well now it's not over bright. But I'm definitely going to need to adjust the picture. But I can make that. I'll do that some other time on another video. One of these days, I need to, you know, it's kind of a pain in the ass to do it alone without a camera because I'm going to need a. The way I do it is over here, I get a mirror, and then I stand behind the machine and adjust it. But I think we're good. I'm going to adjust it, and then I'll shoot a video of it when it's adjusted. Well, I got the picture adjusted. Kind of trying to zoom in and show you how nice the focus is. But Defender. Okay. I actually had my wife come in here and tell me what's going on in front of the tube while I adjusted it. But, yeah, that's it. Now, you see this, you see my finger? You see these lines here on top of the monitor? Would you believe that's totally normal? Sometimes with a Williams game, I'll adjust it. I'll expand the screen so it goes off the screen a little bit. But when it comes to Defender and Stargate, I kind of leave it alone because it's so close to the top of the graphics, you know. But believe it or not, there's an explanation for these lines, and I'm not gonna go into it. But it has to do with the video that the board's putting out. Okay, but there it is. We got a rebuilt monitor and a beautiful Defender.